Hello and welcome to Tracing the Circle. Thank you to everyone who took the time to seek me out, everyone who is curious and who has offered support. I will do my very best in my attempt to inspire magic and beauty within the hearts of the people who listen. Now, I'm not an academic or an intellectual, and I left school at a very young age. I do not really have the ability to read and remember and repeat information, which is probably why I failed in school. I can't do that, not without serious struggle, anyway. What I am good at, however, is absorbing information into my heart and making sense of vast concepts, putting pieces together and making connections between things one usually wouldn't. I sort of develop an understanding through intuition and reason from the things I've studied and the things that I continue to study. And I would like to share that understanding with you, and I'd like to share my constant quest to become a better person and a better friend and a better partner to my loved ones through my acquisition of knowledge and experience. And so I hope what I offer you will move you in some way. That is the purpose of this podcast. If you are more keen on hearing my personal stories and dealings, of which most of you are aware, please look out for more interviews on other people's podcasts. I am no philosopher. I'm not an adept or a magician. I'm not a healer, a psychic, or a seer. I may have the makings of each within me, but the potential merely whirls around in the depths of my soul, gently tossed here and there by the winds of time, which pass through my life. I cannot promise to give you any kind of profound insight, but I do believe the spiritual seekers of this modern day and age are lacking in some of the fundamental precepts of the occult sciences and spiritual arts and philosophies. And although I'm not very proficient in the understanding and practice of these, I have merely touched the surface, I do think it's possible that I could introduce seekers to various concepts that might inspire them or set them in the right direction. Within this podcast, I will give reference to many books, authors, mystics, and historic cultural texts that you may have never heard of before. Each of these, when combined and read, one after the other, or in various combinations, in an order seen fit by the mental spheres around you, they act as building blocks for the architecture of spiritual thought and development. And they will awaken the laws of nature within the seeker, or the neophyte, as they have for me over the last 15 years. And as they have for so many others over the last 3,000 years or more. Philosophy has edged ever further away from the great mystic practices that once gave it birth. The ancient initiates of the temple, the cave, and the pyramid. Those who once convened with celestial gods of the heavens. Those who lifted the veil and saw beyond the mechanics of our universe and straight into the heart and eye of God himself. As the mystic practices were forgotten and the mystery schools faded into the sands of time, the philosophers were left with naught but the material and observable world they can touch and see. And the concept and ideal of God grew smaller and smaller in the hearts of men. And of course, the various conquests of the governing powers of the world that set out in their religious inquisitions and conquests, they certainly didn't help in keeping the ideal of God alive in the hearts of men. Now we live in the age of science. The esoteric world humbly and gracefully gave way for this new age to come into being. The ashes and remains of the age of the great mystery schools died and gave nutrients to the soils which grew up the materialistic branches of knowledge, giving life to medicine, physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy, psychology, and all the various materially oriented philosophies of the day. And one day, science and spirituality will reunite, and although that time is far beyond the horizon, we must do our best with what we have to pave the way. And although my focus of research has always been on the past, I'm aware of many scientists, doctors, researchers, healers, mystics, and psychics and physicists and various others today who are diligently leading us toward that horizon. Now, the voice in which I write or speak might not be to everyone's taste. It might seem a little pretentious, but it seems to be the natural direction my voice takes when discussing these topics, as the majority of the occult works I have read were written or translated between the 17th or 16th and early 20th century. Between the 17th and early 20th century. And aside from that, I am poetic in nature. I was born of poets, and I am myself, at least at times, a poet. These subjects should be one that inspire and stir greatness from within. And what is a more appropriate vehicle than poetic language? Manly Palmer Hall's opus, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, is an encyclopedic outline of the mysteries of the last 3,000 years. But his poetic and inspiring use of language is what moved me and encouraged me to go on in my studies when I was a teen. I hope you will not perceive me as pretentious, but that it will serve in the portrayal of the great weight and lightness of the subjects at hand. And aside from all that, I will share some of my own experiences, which led me on the spiritual path, the good, the bad, and the very, very ugly. There is a side to the occult that is dark, gruesome and horrific. One could call it evil, or I would say more appropriately, perverse. And we will discuss that from a very personal point of view. As I mentioned before, the great mystery schools of old are no longer, at least to my knowledge, in operation. There exist today many brotherhoods, fraternities, and cults, organizations, religious or spiritual, who take part in mystical practices and use ancient symbols and chants and languages, and who may have been around for hundreds of years, but I truly believe these all have fallen from grace and that they are full to the very brim with corruption. They are ensnared within the darkness of the criminal networks that plague our world. Now, this all goes back to the pledge made within secret societies to swear an oath of secrecy and to go through many trials and tests before one is allowed to enter into the deepest circles of knowledge. These barriers once served a purpose to protect the divine arts and wisdom from the profane. Eventually, however, these protective barriers stopped serving their purpose when the fraternities and secret societies became degraded. The self-serving and power-seeking, the dark-natured, usurped those with good intentions and fooled them. They shunned those smart enough to recognize them, and they turned into slaves those who couldn't. The vow of secrecy remained the same, but only those who they are able to fool and control, or those who are as equally corrupt or corruptible, are accepted into the schools. And with the power of the ancient magic inverted and turned toward the self and toward domination, the secrets of spiritual wisdom have not been so easily passed on to those deserving of them. They have been locked away behind many layers of illusion and deceit that distort and misrepresent them. And this is why, in the dawning of the age of Aquarius, people are learning to become their own teachers. We cannot rely on groups of authority anymore. The New Age movement is a sort of result of this divinely-led impulse and spiritual seeking. It's not really a group, but various clusters of people who hold different beliefs and practice different methods or follow different schools of thought. There are people who are trying to seek out their own spiritual path away from the more dogmatic. However, the New Age movement has its downsides, and it can become very cult-like in certain settings. And things which should be more seriously studied become rather wishy-washy. And even where there is structure and good practice, it pales in comparison to the old teachings, like an ant under the sun, meticulously trudging along in its duties, unaware of the magnitude and significance of the great celestial giant that lights its way. And that is where we are today, mere ants, ignorant to the illumination which the giants of a bygone era imparted to mankind. Those philosophers, initiates, and adepts whose names or teachings survive the test of thousands of years. And those teachings, are in everything. Music, our math, our science, the foundation of everything, those old mystics. And now, the esoteric and the occult in recent times has become a topic of great discussion and interest. And this is due to its insidious side being used within film, music, and entertainment. And it's been becoming more and more deliberately apparent and obvious. Settings from important world events like the Olympics and the Super Bowl have caused outrage across the world, and also you have things like pop singers using satanic symbolism or symbols like the Eye of Horus and cat pyramids and all of the demonic stuff and use of blood and cannibalism, which is just gross. Owls and snakes, aliens and vampires and all of that. And of course, the less popularly discussed mind control symbolism that flashes in and out of every scene. I think I have to let my dog outside. He's behaving weird. And we also have this new wave sort of revolution of Christianity that's sweeping the nations. Perhaps in part as a response to and rebellion towards this debauched imagery and behavior we see all around us within the entertainment sphere and the world in general. I think that this is the human race looking for meaning again, direction, safety, and service to a higher cause. And this is very good for the world and humanity, to reignite a religious spirit. But, of course, the religious can very quickly devolve or erupt into the dogmatic, giving rise to superstition, fear of the unknown, fear of that which is different, and taking it upon themselves the judgment and condemnation of their fellow man, when it is God's job to do so and not theirs. I think that the combination of these two world phenomena that are happening currently, the unabashed revelation of debauched satanic imagery in our entertainment, and the sudden explosion of the Christian faith recapturing the minds and hearts of the population, they both contribute to the ever-darkening name of the occult, the esoteric, and the mystic. And we as humans tend to find nuance and balance a little repulsive, especially in the days of great political polarization. And the Christians, well, they know all too well what God feels about the lukewarm. So maybe it's in our nature to push the balance and seek for extremes. These polarities pushing and pulling us into the future on our journey of evolution and self-discovery. And, of course, you have the great Christian mystic Emanuel Swedenborg, who said, "Without contraries, there can be no progression." But despite that, it doesn't excuse our behavior, does it? And so I endeavor to pull out the battered and beaten body of the occult opus and rescue it from the giants which trample on the legacy it so rightfully deserves. I would like to reveal the true purpose of the mystic path and occult studies to a new generation of people. To offer an alternative to the dogma of religion, the darkness of the corrupted cults, and the inconsistencies of the New Age movement. An alternative to the stagnated fraternities and the materialist philosophies, I would like to introduce people to the incredible work of the mystics and sciences of old. And of course, the age of Aquarius is all for self-mastery. We are no longer supposed to rely on systems of power to lead us. The church, the government, fraternities, the cults, the temples, we do not need them anymore. We have even proven that we don't even need to rely on books, let alone teachers or yogis or masters. When we have sit with ourselves and gone into the silence and looked within ourselves or upon the world around us, we have opened our eyes and begun to see things with blinding clarity. And we have begun to sit with that clarity, analyze and unwind it, and penetrate into its mysteries, its riddles and patterns, and we have begun to figure things out. I'm going to get some honey now. Every now and then, throughout the history of mankind, we have experienced various periods of peace, prosperity, and health. And right now, you could say it's on a global scale more than it ever has been in recorded history. There's more wealth and more health. Now, while we do still have quite a lot of war going on, it's nothing compared to what we had in the past. And so this period of sort of global health and prosperity that we're experiencing now, it's not an accident. All of the synchronicities are perfectly devised by the grand scheme of evolution. We finally have the time, the capacity to collectively unravel the nature of our world, our society, and our being, whether it's spiritual, psychological, or political, or whatever it is you are attuned to. But this is also why it's important to be vigilant, because there are forces at work in the world who are aware of these cycles, and they will utilize them for their own gain. And we must be careful not to be misled out of our own pride and arrogance into systems of thought that seem to be of the people, by the people, but are actually created by design, by the very system which seeks to keep us enslaved, stupid, and distracted. This capacity for introspection and awareness is being utilized properly when you can recognize a clear difference between your own thoughts and those around you, those you are closest to, even with those with whom you agree with on most things. We are not a hive mind. Each of us has our own unique purpose and our own unique input, and we must be united in one thing and one thing only, and that is love of truth and love for mankind, even for those who you believe are your enemy. In fact, especially those who you believe are your enemy. And from that uniting ideal, we can strengthen the bonds of our individual communities and cultures and identities of our countries. Make sure your quest is your own personal, unique quest, and not that of an inorganic group mind being harnessed and manipulated by the forces which lead society into an ever-increasing dystopian minefield. So again, in the dawn of the age of Aquarius, you are asked to go deep within yourself and become your own leader and your own teacher. Because all of the teachings of all of the ages are within you. If you quiet the mind just enough, you might just begin to hear the whisper of that spirit of the ages. The soft, quiet call, the beckoning of the return home to the source of all creation. Now, I would like to make it clear that I consider the Bible and all of its holy symbols to be sacred. I believe that this religion is the appropriate religion for our age and for the Western world and all the people across the world who gravitate towards it. I'm not attempting to discourage anyone from following the Christian path or any religion. I hope that what I have to share could serve to strengthen their faith if they choose to open their minds to its esoteric side. I'm not a Christian myself. I do not follow any religion. But I do believe all religions came out of the necessity of the cycles of the evolution of mankind, and they have all served in some way to bring us closer to God and bring us out of the darkness of ignorance. However, it would be foolish not to consider humanity's interference with sacred symbols, books, and religions. Men have sought dominion and power over the masses since the beginning of recorded history. We must not deny the corruption of the church and the dogma they created through their various interpretations of the source material. And we must consider that much of that source material goes beyond Jesus and his disciples and deep into the ancient mysteries which came before them, the pagan mysteries. Pagan meaning religious or spiritual beliefs other than those of the main world religions like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. To follow the mystic path, no matter what religion you follow or gravitate toward, means to penetrate deeper into the mysteries, to go beyond what is blindly accepted by the masses, understanding that the exoteric belongs to those who follow, and that's perfectly natural and perfectly fine. And the esoteric belongs to those strange and unique individuals who make the uncovering of ever deeper truths their life's mission. Knowing that the more the individual discovers and begins to understand about the nature of himself and the universe, the more it imparts to the collective consciousness. The more the sleeping and slumbering mind of the human race can absorb. And to go back to the point where I said it's so important to make sure we're following our own unique quest and not hive mind quest, because our own very unique experiences, our own very unique thoughts it's an important gift and lesson for the collective subconscious mind of the human race. They need it. They need you to go on your individual quest because you are teaching them. As we learn as individuals, we contribute to the learning of all mankind. And waves of different kinds of learning come across the globe, age after age, cycle after cycle. The person on the mystic path does not for long remain blinded by the prejudice of superstition or the preconceptions which have been inculcated in them by the various systems of power. We are open to all information, and we analyze, and we dissect, and we tear it open. We reveal what is within, and we separate the dross from the useful. We are not afraid to question what we have been taught, and that goes for what you have been told about your religion. Many a lie, many a distortion has been told in order to sustain the political power of the day throughout the ages, in order to keep the people divided and under control. You can go to the church and sing your prayers, but at once know that the men wearing the robes might not be who they say they are, and that the money thrown in the basket might not go where it's supposed to go, and that the people behind the entire structure and organization of the church and the religion might be beholden to some other power than the ones they claim allegiance to. But as long as you go there for God, to share your prayer in reverence to God with your fellow man, the awareness of those potentials will not hinder your faith. It will strengthen it. And that's a whole other conversation. We could spend 45 minutes to an hour just on that, because that is it's a conundrum. It's very confusing. How could such a thing strengthen your faith? But these are incredible tests of awareness and compassion, strength and courage. So, mysticism. Mysticism is for all people. Occultism is for all people, people of all religions and all points of view, even the atheist. Atheists, welcome. Please come. We need you. And this podcast is for all people, of all perspectives. Everyone is welcome. Your opinions on world events bother me not. I understand that everyone has a different perspective, and what looks bad to me can look good to others, and not because they're immoral, but because of the shadows cast on the world, which stand affront the light of truth in infinite variations, like Plato's cave. I welcome all people, even my enemies, who I would sit down with and break bread with and share stories with and listen to. I have no enemy. The only enemy is fear and superstition. Stay tuned. For in the upcoming episodes, I will do my very best to introduce you to some of the most profound occult literature and ideas in this world and the next. Thank you for listening, and thanks for your support. So I'm thinking the first real episode, we will go deeply into the whole meaning and purpose behind the path of mysticism. It's something truly beautiful and not understood by the majority of people in the world today. When you say the word occultism or mysticism or the esoteric. And so I think it's something worthy of at least half an hour of discussion. I hope I'm able to produce more than half an hour of discussion. And I think I can. Not only from, the various sources, books and things, but from a very personal point of view. It's something very beautiful and very moving. And let me know what you think about that idea. And if you have any criticism or suggestions, please let me know. I'm open to any kind of commentary. Thanks again. So this is going to be my first attempt, my first try at editing. And I don't have like a very professional setup, so I've got my microphone and my camera separate. So I have to put the voice over and the video together. And there's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's enough for it to be annoying, to be difficult to edit out those moments. Let's see how long it takes. Could be, 25 minutes, or it could be 2 hours. Let me know if you like the idea of bloopers and outtakes and things like that. Could be funny. Because this, the whole concept is me speaking what I write, because I'm a very good writer. I like to write, anyway. And it could be funny to see the more real me before and after or during.